today?
No, before today, last night I was watching your interview with
the man.
Eesh.
With the man.
My God.
It was a 6-way conversation.
Yes.
It was in 1 hour.
It.
That's like, I don't know how many minutes per person.
It was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so Kojo, what's the Ghanaian Times' lead story today?
Well, the lead story is about Okada-related matters, but I'm looking at some financial results of some of the companies published in the Times.
Okay.
And some of the key companies in the country recorded losses in the first quarter of this year compared to last year. And I feel that at this point, every Ghanaian must look forward to or must deliberately plan to buy from a Ghanaian company or get a service from a Ghanaian company, because this is the time they need your money to survive.
Okay.
Now, if you check the Ghanaian Times front page, ban Okada now over social distancing defiance, according to the police. COVID-19 offences. Police grab 1,326 persons nationwide for flouting public gathering social distancing directives. Eligibility of special prosecutor. Supreme Court gives judgment May 13. And clearing agents, importers stranded at Tema Port as GC Net shuts down.
In Daily Graphic, its lead story by Doreen Ando says, "Our duty, national call, health workers determined to win COVID-19 war."
Okay.
Other stories on page 16 says, Unipass keeps importers stranded.
Charlie?
Interesting story there. Ahead of May Day, ICU urges workers to help fight COVID-19. That's on page 20. And on page 16, don't aid people to cross borders illegally. That's the Ghana Immigration Service. That's on page number 16 of the Daily Graphic. On the back page, frontline health workers in Western region cope with stigma.
Okay.
Now, the Chronicle, Amidu sits on tenterhooks as Supreme Court defers age judgment again. Police probe Lands Commission. This story is in a couple of newspapers. NPP primary gets murkier, and the editorial says 1,671 COVID-19 cases in Ghana is very scary. Ghanaians must wake up.
In the Daily Statesman, it has a photograph of Asiedu Nketia, General Secretary of the NDC, and his nose mask. And he says, "We don't have running mate due to COVID-19. It's on page 2 of the Daily Statesman this morning. No decision yet on lifting ban on public gatherings, President declares. These are the two major stories in the Daily Statesman this morning.
The Lands Commission story in the Chronicle is also on the front page of the New Crusading Guide. Lands Commission in hot waters over multiple registration of lands as police pursue it for answers. NDC split heads over Akufo-Addo's 88 hospitals project. Staunch Mahama chief drifts towards NPP, and Gushegu NPP executives petition Akufo-Addo as party faces danger of losing seat to NDC.
In a Daily Guide this morning, Obi Nim slaps Kennedy Japan. Stories on page 3 of the Daily Guide. And NDC sweats for running mate. Tension in Fomena Kumewu over hospital. And on page 6, Che backs health minister. We'll find the details. Driver kills cop. That's on page number 6 of the Daily Guide. Yeah.
Now, the ABC News. Mahama suffers COVID-19 setback. Can't select running mate, says Esiedu Nketia. Domestic flights set to resume in Ghana imminently. This is the aviation minister. And government has not abandoned health projects as claimed. Honorable Ajimamenu, the health minister.
Let me take you online, citynewsroom.com. We can't open schools if it's not safe. Duchum. Also, tripartite committee's communique on COVID-19 fight misplaced. This is Federation of Labour. Central Region, residents protest over sighting of COVID-19 isolation center at Odukbon Ofako. And other stories, police allay fears of Ankara hospital staff following robbery attacks. Meanwhile, ECG is issuing electricity relief directives to prepaid customers. You will also benefit. If you go to citybusinessnews.com, offer better protection for financial consumers amid COVID-19. Group urges BOG. Also, Supreme Court dismisses application challenging the merger of Danex, Ayrton, and Starwin. And National Hospitality Association calls on government for emergency support. MyJoyOnline.com. 53 abandoned uncompleted health facilities discovered. The discovered is in quote. Also, calm restored in Anto as 71 coastal quarry workers test negative for COVID-19. Meanwhile, the president says no decision has been taken on when public gatherings can resume. Star FM, communities chasing recovered COVID-19 patients with land guards. Also, challenge the myth of COVID-19. Avoid labeling UG lecturer to journalist. And your misinformation is likely to mislead the public. Nairi wants Tongran. Meanwhile, Ayawaso traders want to be compensated over market closures. And this is from a unit committee member. Let's go global. BBC has a good story. South Korea records no new local virus cases. Guys, the fight is winnable. And this is news that in a major milestone for the country, which at a point had seen more than 900 cases a day, for the first time there's nobody who's gotten the virus. Meanwhile, in the CNN angle of things, just the beginning of the crisis, Wuhan shows the world that despite lifting the coronavirus lockdown, normal might still be a long way off. So that's not too good. East Africa, Kenya reports 384 cases. Meanwhile, Safaricom profits jump to, wait for it, $747 million. Safaricom, the M-Pesa data business is giving them money. Charlie, this is East Africa. And then, of course, there's a question in the South China Morning Post. What does 2020 hold for China's Huawei as COVID-19 grips the world? In Nigeria as well, their total cases 1,728 with 51 deaths. So that's pretty high. Let's start with the details of Kojo.
I want Caleb to start because he has a story on health.
Okay, so the Daily Graphic, what is Graphic doing this morning?
So Graphic is talking about health workers, and it says health staff at the forefront in the fight against the novel coronavirus COVID-19 in Ghana have described their work as a call to national duty, which they are not just obliged to honor but privileged to be involved in. Doctors, nurses, medical laboratories, scientists, cleaners, and ambulance. The story continues on page 3, and it's
ambulance workers,
drivers. They are all saying that it's a call and a duty that they are privileged to join the fight. And I'm glad that on Friday
we are celebrating them with rally round the flag.
Absolutely.
So that's the big story on the front page. What do you have
now,
first?
more on health. Government has not abandoned health projects as claimed. This is the ABC News from Tuesday's press conference.
Okay.
But I'll take you to the Upper West region. Sorry, guys.
Okay, let me give something.
Now,
Let
me
because
take
I
you
have
to
a
the Upper
very
West
interesting one
region.
for you, Kojo. There's a story on Joy. It says the coalition of NGOs in health says they have discovered about 53 health projects across the country left unattended to since the assumption of the Akufo-Addo-led administration. Now, chairman of the NGO, Gabriel Benaku, says the number of the abandoned projects represents the coalition's latest data as of April 29. Now, the gentleman who spoke to Joy FM says, as at noon, my regional representatives are able to give me at least 53 health facilities either completed and not commissioned or abandoned halfway. So this is in relation to this headline you read that the government said they've not abandoned. So there's a new one coming in on that website.
And on one of the key hospitals we petitioned the president about, the Upper West Regional Hospital, it's been opened, but the medical director says they are operating under capacity.
Okay.
The new deputy minister of health toured the hospital, and the medical director told him that they need about 600,000 workers. 600 workers, sorry, but they have only 200.
Okay.
So the hospital is understaffed and they cannot take all the referral cases in the region. So as a matter of urgency, the government should resource the hospital with the staff they need so that they can perform the role it's been built for.
So the hospital is working but not full functional.
Yes.
Now, this story I was reading says Dr. Gabriel Benaku told Top Story that many of these projects are normally between 60 to 100% complete, and these are from 2017 to date. We are mindful of two critical issues. We have to continue and upgrade what has existed to allow communities to use them, and then we add on, he advised. Now, you have a government response to this. I think you read the headline.
No. That's from Tuesday's press conference.
The government saying that. Okay, so it's the same story.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue. What else do you have for us?
Well,
let's go to the ports, Bernard.
Okay.
Because this story is everywhere. Center spread of the Ghanaian Times. Clearing agents, importers stranded at Tema Port at GCNet's closes down or shuts down. This story is very important. Look, on the 30th of April 2018, on this same day, we're sitting on this show discussing ports.
Okay.
And then
exactly 2 years ago.
Yes, we pulled a PwC analysis of ports within the sub-region in Africa. And that analysis said that Durban, South Africa, Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, and Mombasa, Kenya were the leading ports. And that Nigeria's Lagos Apapa port and the Tema port are seen as alternatives to take over these ports due to their better operational performance.
This is 2 years ago.
This is 2 years ago. Now we are talking about our ports. And
what's the problem today?
The problem is that clearing agents and importers are unable to do their business because the new system is not working.
Oh.
And GCNet, you see the GCNet's
Unipass
issues. Now, the Ghanaian Times writes that clearing of goods and payment of duty at the Tema port have been disrupted for 2 consecutive days due to the shutdown of the Ghana Community Service Network Limited system, which is GCNet.
Okay.
Clearing agents and importers who visited the Ghana Customs Management System on Tuesday and Wednesday to process their declarations to enable them pay duty and clear goods could not do so due to the shutdown. The notice quote, as part of the government directive, you cannot use the GCNet system. Go to Integrated Customs Management System, unquote, had been posted at the entrance of the port. Currently, an importer or declarant utilizes the pre-arrival assessment report provided by West Blue Consulting Services Limited and the Ghana Customs Management System, jointly operated by the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and GCNet, that is the Integrated Cargo Clearance System to process documentation. The government has sought to replace the existing system with a new single window end-to-end administration system called the Unipass or ICUM, which was scheduled to start operations at the Tema port on Tuesday. Unipass is also a public-private partnership between the government of Ghana and Ghana Link Services Limited.
So what is the problem?
The problem is that the Unipass system is not working.
Okay.
And according to this story, the GCNet system has also been shut down. So Tuesday, Wednesday, they couldn't do business. Nobody could.
So for 2 whole days.
For 2 days.
Also, we were told that they had asked GCNet to come and do something in the interim.
Yes.
Because there was a challenge. That story was saying that GRA has engaged GCNet to restore systems as support over Unipass challenges. Let me just give that reminder before Caleb comes in. Now, GRA, this was 2 days ago, says it is in talk with GCNet to restore its system following the challenges witnessed at the port with the newly introduced ICUM system known as Unipass. According to them, the discussion with GCNet had been induced by the challenges faced by agents processing their customs documents using the new system. Caleb, what do you have for us?
On the same story, though, Dela Rasoloklu writes in Daily Graphic, page 16, just quoting the Deputy Minister's angle, and he adds that a Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. Kweku Kwating, who was in Tema to engage the Ghana Link Network Services Limited, operators of the new UMS system, said that the Commissioner General of the GRA had been tasked to come up with a workaround modality to address the immediate challenges. So he told Daily Graphic this in Tema yesterday. So that's the angle.
So basically what I want to know, so is the minister admitting the problems?
Yes, and he is tasking the Commissioner General of the GRA to come up with a workaround modality to address the immediate challenges.
Which is probably why the Commissioner General wrote to GCNet to come and save the situation while they try and sort. So essentially saying somebody is doing the work, you said they can't do it, you get a new person to do it. The new person starts, is not working. You are saying go back to the old guy, let him help the system run until we find a workable solution.
Yesterday, Godfrey said this deserves a press conference by the government to explain to Ghanaians what is happening. Because the ports are the places where we get some of our biggest revenues as a state.
Yes.
Now, if for 2 days, and this thing has been happening for a while now, but for the past 2 days, people have not been able to do business. For the past 2 weeks, business has been shaky. Somebody needs to be telling Ghanaians what is really happening.
Back to Caleb, what do you have?
Bernard, on the issue of hospitals, Daily Guide is reporting on page 6 that there is tension in Fomena Kumeu over hospital, written by Enes Kofi Adu, and it says tension is mounting in Fomena and Kumeu in the Adanse North District and the Setre Kumeu District, respectively, in the Ashanti region over completed hospitals in the area. Angry residents claimed the projects had been abandoned after they had continuously waited for construction works to commence on the projects, which were part of the 6 hospitals in the Build to Care Ghana project left uncompleted by the Mahama National Democratic Congress administration. So works on a 120 bed hospital facility for the Setre Kumeu district were abandoned after its construction started in 2015. So Fomena and Kumeru people are not happy at
So
all.
those are part of the original 23 hospitals we petitioned the president on. Now let's go to other stories, Kojo.
Mahama suffers COVID-19 setback. Can't select running mate, says Esiedun Ketia. This story is on page 3 of the ABC News. The story says the General Secretary of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, has said the failure by the party's flag bearer to select its running mate for the upcoming 2020 general elections should be blamed on the coronavirus pandemic. He spoke in an interview on Unia TV. Now, if you check page 3 of the Chronicle, Amidu sits on tenterhooks. This is to do with his the case in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
The story says the controversy surrounding the eligibility of Martin Amidu as special prosecutor will be determined by the Supreme Court on May 13, 2020. The Apex Court is expected to give a constitutional interpretation on whether Mr. Amidu's age qualifies him to occupy his current position at the office of the special prosecutor.
Let me give you two quick stories here. ECG issues electricity relief directives to prepaid customers. This is citynewsroom.com. Now, the ECG has urged its prepaid customers to either swipe or insert their cards into their meters before visiting vendor points or ECG offices to buy credit. Now, in a statement, they said the directive is to enable it to gather accurate consumption data to ensure a smooth implementation of the government's COVID-19 electricity relief. Now, the package was announced by the president a couple of weeks ago to alleviate the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on people and businesses. The ECG subsequently said Ghanaians will begin to enjoy the reduction in their electricity tariff by end of April. And then he gave the breakdown. Now, let me go back to that website. We can't open schools if it's not safe. This is the Deputy Minister of Education. I heard him on the news you read this morning. Deputy Minister of Education in charge of basic and secondary, Dr. Yawose Duchum, believes the reopening of schools should be delayed to ensure the safety of students in the wake of COVID-19. Now, older students in China's biggest city, Wuhan, in China's biggest cities and other countries in the world are starting to return to school following the coronavirus outbreak. Dr. Duchum on Citi TV's point of view, however, advised against pressurizing government into taking a similar decision in Ghana until the data and the science had proved that it was absolutely safe to do so. That's a high schooler talking. Kojo, what's the Ghanaian Times editorial?
It's interesting. It says COVID-19 and innovations, the new normal.
Okay.
And so the editorial is talking about KNUST, Legon, various institutions in Ghana coming up with things that could help us solve our problems.
Okay.
And they conclude that, as President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo told his colleagues in the virtual ECOWAS meeting, it is very important that we tailor a specific Ghanaian and African response to the handling of this pandemic and not necessarily copy blindly the methods that are being adopted by countries to the north of us and elsewhere.
I noticed Caleb is holding the statesman. What do you have there?
Statesman. So the president says no decision has been taken yet on lifting ban on public gatherings. So that's the angle.
Give us the details.
Yes. So President Akufo-Addo has indicated that government has not yet taken a decision on when to lift the restrictions on public gatherings, which have been put in place to help curb the spread of the novel coronavirus. According to him, even though a lot of information has been gathered on the geographical footprint of the virus, which has influenced the manner in which the country has handled the outbreak, the issue of relaxing the restrictions on public gatherings is undecided at the moment. And he was addressing a webinar series by Africa.com.
In fact, yesterday, Injo Kabonu, who's the president of NAGRAT, said the same thing, that nobody should put pressure on the government to ease the restrictions until it was very, very safe to do so. Now, in relation to this, Kolebu is saying that they are reiterating their warning on mass burial of unclaimed bodies. This story says the public relations unit of Kolebu Teaching Hospital has reiterated the need for families who have bodies of their relatives in the hospital's mortuary to claim them. The Kolebu Hospital on Friday, 24th April, threatened to bury unknown and unclaimed bodies in its mortuary within 2 weeks en masse. The ban on public gatherings, including funerals, has led to many people deferring burial dates of their loved ones, although there's an exemption granted to those who wish to hold private burials with 25 or fewer people in attendance. Some families say they would rather wait for COVID-19 induced ban to be lifted for them to organize, quote, a proper funeral. The PRO Mustafa Salifu in a Citi News interview says bodies can be moved to funeral homes if they don't want to come and bury them. And he said after the 2-week grace period, we will assume that the bodies don't have any relatives. That's why nobody's coming to make a claim for the bodies. And I think we should, as you said, innovation, new way of thinking. Let's do the small funeral, save money, and focus on the living.
Yeah.
I agree with the gentleman.
Some bodies have been there in the last 3 years.
Yes. So I don't know why people want a huge funeral at all costs, because we don't even know when COVID-19 is going to bring back life as we know it.
And truth is, those who still want to have their huge funerals, you can have it after COVID-19.
Exactly.
But bury your dead now and have the funeral later.
You can do a memorial service or something. Let's have 2 quick stories. Because I want you to tell me about Friday and why we are celebrating frontliners and who's going to be there.
Let me give you an Okada story.
Okay.
Ban Okada now for flouting social distancing directive. Public urges the government.
Okay.
And the photo the Ghanaian Times uses in their center spread is a photo of 2 police officers on a motorbike flouting the social distance directive.
Oh, Charlie.
And Anita Janko-Yirinchi writes that in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, some members of the public have urged the government to ban the use of motorcycles as commercial passenger transport in the country without
Kojo, before
delay.
I come back to you, I want to give you 2 stories which are very conflicting in a sense. So if you go to the BBC, the lead story is that South Korea records no new virus cases. And this is 4 new cases were all imported. It's a major milestone for the country, which has been among the worst affected by COVID-19, right? So this is great news. So it tells you that some countries can actually get to a point of no new domestic infections. But CNN has a story that says Wuhan shows the world that the end of the lockdown is just the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis. An analysis by David Carver of CNN basically saying that all around the world, people are waiting for the announcement that the coronavirus pandemic is contained and that they can return to normal life. But the Chinese city at the center of the pandemic has shown that normal might still be a long way off. When Wuhan officials eased outgoing travel restrictions on April 8, effectively ending the city's 76-day lockdown, residents and local businesses soon learned that the city's actual reopening would be painfully slow. Despite the lifting of most strict lockdown laws, many stores are still shut, restaurants are restricted to takeaway, and even when citizens go outside, they still wear protective equipment and try to avoid each other. So basically saying, it's not free for all, like, oh, go to market, touch people, do everything. It's a phased easing, which we all have to understand here as well. Kojo, tomorrow is a big day. What's happening?
Yes, tomorrow we are organizing a virtual concert in the Citi TV studios to honor our frontline health workers.
A virtual concert?
Yes, we want to say thank you to them and we want to appreciate them. There are thousands of them across the country who over the past 2 months have really gone through a lot to ensure that we deal with COVID-19. There are some of them who have not even had time to spend with their families.
So we are dedicating Workers' Day to them?
We are dedicating Workers' Day fully to them to let them know that yes, we appreciate them. Yes, they are doing a good job. Yes, there is a war we are fighting. We've not won, but they should keep on fighting because humanity depends on them.
So how is it going to be like?
We will have different performers perform their songs. They also have special messages on dealing with COVID-19 to share with our audiences.
You mean the musicians or the workers?
The musicians will have messages. We also take messages from some other key personalities within this whole COVID-19 fight.
I see.
And we will air it from about 9 a.m. on TV. So as we celebrate Workers' Day tomorrow, we are dedicating this year's Workers' Day to our frontline health workers.
Can people dance during COVID-19?
You can dance in your house. Social distancing.
Social distance.
Yes, you can dance in your house.
Amazing stuff. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, Kojo. That was a newspaper review. Coming up next is the City Business News. Stay with us.
This is the City Breakfast Show.